In the Senate Judiciary Committee, there was a meeting taking place on the Supreme Court ethics. Now, this is a little bit more substantive than lying congresspeople, which is just par for the course. Here is what that sounds like.
Conduct for the Supreme Court. It is necessary to seek authorization to pursue compulsory process with respect to Mr. Leo and Mr. Carrillo. Before turning to the ranking member, Senator Graham, for his opening remarks, I will tell you that the standards we will follow in procedure are all precedent of the committee. They have been used by the two previous Republican chairmen, and we can cite the exact date when that happened.
So he's
no,
changing
Senator
the
Graham
game
is
right
recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What a difference a day makes. Yesterday, we had 4 Florida judges that came before the committee, where the 2 senators from Florida, both Republicans, reached agreement with the White House to fill judicial vacancies at district court level. We did 1 in South Carolina. So here we are today. I don't buy anything you just said. Let's just be real blunt and direct. This is garbage. If you really thought this was a problem, why don't you bring up the Supreme Court Ethics, Recusal, and Transparency Act that was passed September the 5th, 2023 in this committee to fix the problem you just talked about. This bill is never going to see the light of the day. Go to Senator Schumer and tell him this is urgent. The country's going to collapse if we don't fix this problem. Why hasn't the majority leader brought up the bill that all of y'all voted for to fix this problem? It's never going to be brought up. These subpoenas are never going to see the light of day. I don't know who's driving the train on your side, but you're driving the committee off into a ditch. So this is a joke, a complete joke. Senator Whitehouse, why can't you convince Senator Schumer to bring the bill up so we can amend it, debate, and vote on it on the floor of the United States Senate? It's the Supreme Court Ethics, Recusal, and Transparency Act. As a matter of fact, next week, I will go down and ask it be brought up. And we'll spend all the time we need as a body to determine what we should do with the Supreme Court. It was a party line vote. All of us voted no because we think it's a really bad idea. This jihad y'all have been on against the Roberts Court is not even, there's transparency. I'll give you credit for that. Here's what you said. I mean, the majority leader of the Senate went to the steps of the Supreme Court and threatened them all. So at least you're honest about what you're trying to do. At least you were before.
You have released the whirlwind, and you will pay the price.
I want to tell you, Gorsuch. I want to tell you, Kavanaugh. You've unleashed the whirlwind, and you will pay the price.
Yeah.
I guess this is the price.
You won't know what hit you if you go forward with these awful decisions. You won't know what hit you. That's insurrectionary language. That was March 2020.
So your response to the court you don't like is to try to basically take over how the court works in terms of their internal policing themselves about ethics matters, which all of us on our side feel like really uncomfortable because they're a separate branch of the government. And they did pass some rules that move in the right direction, but you want to pack the court. When you say you don't want to destroy the Roberts Court, I don't believe you. I don't believe a word you're saying. If it were up to you, there would be 13 members on the court,
yeah, Biden
15 members on the court
Senate right now
to dilute the Roberts Court.
Obviously. Next
so
slide.
You are trying to restructure the court.
Next slide.
This is just another way to do it. And is there a consequence to all this rhetoric? Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't believe me? Ask Judge Kavanaugh.
They're trying to take out Judge
Based
Kavanaugh.
on the side.
I wanted to see if there's Tom Cotton, so let's.
Well, I think this deserves some commentary given the nature of the nominee, and I'd like to ask to speak on the nomination.
Senator, we've debated these 2 nominees twice.
Mr. Chairman, I would also like to speak on the nomination.
All right, so
I understand what you'd like to do, but I'm saying that in fairness, we have debated these nominees twice, and I asked the clerk to call the roll.
Mr. Chairman, you're denying us an opportunity to speak on a nominee.
I mean,
third time, no.
Okay, do this.
So we don't have a right to speak under the rules?
Under the third time, I'd say no.
So you're just going to make it up?
So yeah.
I'd like to
There's going to be a lot
speak
of consequences
I'd like
coming
to
here.
speak too, Mr.
You're going to have a lot of consequences coming if you go down this road. I've cautioned a lot of you.
The clerk will call the roll.
Listen to me. I've cautioned a lot of you.
Hey, that's Tom Cotton.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman,
Kennedy
don't
now.
we get the opportunity to speak?
We're in a roll call.
So you're telling us to shut up?
Even though multiple
You
members
want
have
us
asked to
to
speak?
shut up? Is that what you're saying?
A lot of people didn't speak on the 2 nominees before.
We've done.
Would you raise your hand if you did not speak?
I did not have a chance.
Senator Cornyn didn't have a chance to speak.
Senator Blackburn had a chance to speak.
We've got several folks, Mr. Chairman, who didn't have a chance to speak.
We want to tell you again why these nominees are awful.
Or in Senator Cornyn's case, tell you for the first time. You're just going to sit there and ignore us?
Senator Blackburn, have you spoken on these nominees?
I've not had the opportunity to
to
speak. I would like very much to speak on Mr.
Mr. Chairman,
Cassavy.
I urge you to let Senator Blackburn speak.
Senator Cornyn as well. Senator Cornyn hasn't had a chance to speak.
That's correct.
Mr. Grassley. Point of order, Mr. Chairman. You can't limit debate without invoking Rule 4. You haven't done that.
We have debated.
We've debated on prior occasions when we didn't have a quorum. That vote didn't count.
Yeah,
We've got
Dick
people
Durbin.
who are here now who weren't here then who would like to speak.
Can we speak on the other nominees?
Or is your plan to end all debate today? Is your plan to end all debate? Do you have an answer? You're going to rely on someone whispering in your ear. What's your plan?
We're in a roll call.
No, we're not. Listen, here's the deal.
That's fun.
We worked 7 weeks to trying to solution the asylum problems. You boycotted the committee.
Mr. Chairman, I don't know if you've left us any alternative but to deny the committee a quorum.
Mr. Cotton.
I think that's something we ought to seriously
I tell
consider.
you what.
Mr. Cotton says the chairman needs to rethink his decision
Yeah,
and let Senator Cornyn and Senator Blackburn speak. That's what Mr. Cotton says. You can mark that down as my vote.
Yeah,
Everybody over there who's not willing to look at me or look at Dick Durbin needs to think about it as well. Mr. Kennedy wants to speak as well. Mark Mr. Cotton down saying Mr. Kennedy needs to speak too.
I'm waiting to be heard on the nominee. I've requested several times to be heard on the nominee.
So no, I guess Senator Durbin's not going to allow women to speak either. I thought that was sacrosanct in your party.
That's sexist. He's a misogynist.
Chair Durbin, on this vote, the ayes are 11.
He's just sitting there. He doesn't know what to do.
The nomination will be favorably reported to the floor. Up next is Judge Yumi Lee, nominated to the U.S. District Court for the...
Mr. Chairman,
who has not been allowed to speak on that?
Shut his mic
Mr. Chairman, you just destroyed one of the most important committees in the United States Senate.
Shut his mic off. Turn the mic back on.
The chair would note...
And you've set a precedent,
chair
which
would
will
note-
be repeated every time one party or the other takes advantage and takes the low road.
Chair will note
It
that
sets a
both
precedent
nominees have
that
been
will then
debated twice.
become the norm.
Kashibai and
Congratulations on destroying the United States Senate Judiciary Committee.
Up next is Judge Yumi Lee, nominated to the U.S. District Court for the Northern
Who
District
has
of
not
California.
spoken on this nominee?
Clerk will call the roll.
Will you raise your hand? Look at all these people have never said a word before you make them vote.
Just going along with it.
When
Mr.
we were in
Coons
the
said he
majority-
would allow members to speak.
Mr. Chairman, when we were in the majority, we allowed Democrats to speak ad nauseum at great length. We never did this.
Both
Sounds
of
like
these
Mike
nominees have had 2 opportunities for speeches by members.
You have to bring them up again. It wasn't our fault. It's your fault.
Going right along with it.
So they're all just voting, right? The Democrats have the majority, so they're just voting. Aye, aye.
Mr. Chairman, I hope you're proud of yourself.
Is this guy talking to Dick Durbin, the chairman?
Yeah, you really
Is
have.
this guy talking to Dick Durbin, the chairman?
I don't know what drives this, Dick. I really don't.
Mr. Chairman, is it you driving it, or is it your staff
Yeah, is
driving
Joe Zogby
it?
the
Or is
chairman
it
of this
the
committee,
White
or is it
House
you?
driving this? This is completely inappropriate not to let us be heard on these nominations, and you know that.
Looks like his principal law clerk.
Your own members have told you to let them speak.
His principal intern, principal congressional intern, principal Senate staffer. They're all voting without a word.
Mr. Cruz.
This is a complete disgrace.
Maybe you can share
I see
with
my
us.
colleagues over here who understand what goes around comes around.
I mean, this is so unnecessary to ruin the committee over a political exercise that's going nowhere. Senator Whitehouse.
Was my name called? I can't hear. Where's that voice?
Was he recognized to speak?
We're on a roll call.
Ma'am, I'd like to speak, please.
We're on a roll call.
Mr. Tillis.
I'm waiting to be heard on the nominations. Is this an illegal vote?
Chair Durbin.
So now Joe Zogby is going to dictate to other senators how they're going to vote?
So now he's walking around talking to other people.
The ayes are 10.
The nomination will be favorably reported. We now turn to nominations that have not been debated before the committee, and the committee is open.
Mr. Chairman, I seek to speak on Seth Ephraim.
Well, that is the next nominee, and you're
And
recognized.
I thank you for that. I have
So the
made it
first two they
clear
crammed through,
that
now
I
they
will
can
not
talk.
support this nomination, and there is a good reason for not supporting him, Mr. Chairman. The White House really does not have a good record when it comes to this seat. Back in February, I voiced my opposition to Mr. Delaney, Michael Delaney, who was nominated for this very same seat. Well, Mr. Delaney, we found out, had used hardball tactics against a 15-year-old survivor of sexual assault. He did this in order to protect an elite private school that wanted to cover up the disgusting conduct conduct that had been perpetrated against this young woman. Now, Mr. Delaney.
Well, he's perfect for the Biden administration. So this guy is like cream of the crop, probably hand selected by Hunter, put him right in there wherever he is going. And so obviously you can see why they don't want to have debate on these other individuals, right? The first people they put up, just a roll, right? It's fast track, baby. We just speed on through it. Nobody gets to say anything, because if you say stuff, well, then you get people like Senator Marsha Blackburn who come out and really hammer it home and explain who these people are. So he's perfect for the Biden White House, and all the Democrats over there, they'll just vote it on through. And we'll see if the Republicans, play with these same tactics when they're back in charge of the Senate. And it's a pretty disgusting display. And you saw all of the Republicans in unison were saying, this is ridiculous. Not even a debate, because they don't want debate, man. They just want victory at all costs, even if it means wrecking the institutions that create some political due process in our governance. But that is what the Democrats are doing there in the Senate.